Two cars, same platform, same engine, same structure, but thousands of dollars difference in price. By 2026, the automotive industry will increasingly share components between brands within the same group, from chassis and transmissions to entire electronic systems. However, the final price changes dramatically depending on the logo on the grille. Are you paying for real engineering or simply brand positioning? Today we analyze how nearly identical models can cost significantly more based solely on perception, marketing strategy, and premium storytelling. 4. Toyota Corolla Cross versus Lexus UX. Is the price difference really justified? In 2026, many buyers believe they are comparing two completely different vehicles when they look at a Toyota Corolla Cross and a Lexus UX. One belongs to a mainstream brand known for reliability. The other is presented as premium, refined, and exclusive. But if we analyze the technical basis, we find an interesting reality. Both share the TNGA platform in various configurations, hybrid systems derived from the same development, a common electronic architecture, and many similar structural components. Let's be specific. The TNGA platform used by the Corolla Cross and the TNGA platform also found in the UX are not radically different versions. Toyota developed this architecture with a clear objective: modularity. The goal was for the same structural framework to serve multiple segments, multiple brands, and multiple powertrain configurations without having to reinvent the engineering from scratch for each project. The result? Development efficiency, cost reduction, huge economies of scale when you're producing millions of vehicles a year in multiple plants around the world. And that's a positive thing from an engineering standpoint. It's not a criticism. It's a rational decision that allows Toyota Motor Corporation to remain one of the most profitable and reliable manufacturers on the planet. Standardizing platforms doesn't degrade products. It makes them more predictable, more proven, and more technologically mature. The relevant point is another. How does that impact the final price paid by the consumer? The Corolla Cross's hybrid system, especially in markets where it's sold with a 1.8 or 2.0 hybrid engine, shares the same development philosophy as the UX250H or UX300H system. The electrical architecture, the energy management logic, the way the electric motor and combustion engine interact, all of this comes from the same technological family tree within Toyota Motor Corporation. These aren't systems developed independently by separate teams with different objectives. They are variations of the same technical solution applied with different levels of refinement. The electric motor in the hybrid system has specification differences between the Corolla Cross and the UX. The battery management system may have different calibrations, but the concept, architecture, operating principle, and the supplier of many key components are all shared. When Toyota developed the fourth-generation hybrid system, it did so with multiple applications in mind. It considered economies of scale that allow for the manufacture of electric motors, nickel metal hydride or lithium batteries, and power control units at a cost that makes the hybrid viable in more accessible price segments. Lexus benefits from that development, but it also benefits from something else: brand premium. Yes, the Lexus has better sound insulation. That's real and measurable. The layers of acoustic material are more extensive. Lexus engineers spend significant engineering hours targeting specific noise frequencies, identifying vibration sources, and adding absorbent material in strategic locations. The difference in cabin noise level between a Corolla Cross and a UX at highway speeds is genuinely noticeable. It's not the driver's imagination. It's real engineering work applied to a specific refinement goal. Yes, the interior materials are superior. The leather, if available on the trim level you're comparing, feels better, smells better, and looks better over time. Hard plastics are virtually non-existent in frequently touched areas. The wood and metal finishes are more refined, with greater attention to detail in the edges, the transitions between materials, and the way each surface meets the next. The infotainment screen, the audio system quality, the feel of the buttons and controls. Everything in the UX has a higher level of finish. It's not a marginal difference. You notice it within the first 5 minutes inside the vehicle. Yes, the suspension tuning can be more comfortable. Lexus engineers have more leeway to fine-tune the handling because production volume is lower and refinement is paramount. They can dedicate more engineering hours per unit produced precisely because they produce fewer units. The UX isn't sold in the same volumes as the Corolla Cross, and that smaller scale, paradoxically, allows for greater attention to detail in the tuning. All of that is real. All of that exists. All of that has an additional production cost that is legitimate. But does that justify a difference that can exceed 30% in some markets? Let's do a mental exercise. If the Corolla Cross Hybrid costs $35,000 in a given market, the equivalent UX could cost $45,000, $47,000, or even more depending on the equipment. We're talking about a difference of $10,000 to $15,000. How much of that difference is due to actual engineering, to materials that are genuinely more expensive in terms of raw materials and manufacturing process? Probably between $3,000 and $5,000 if we do an honest analysis of the additional components, the more extensive soundproofing, the superior interior materials, and the differentiated suspension calibration. And how much of that is due to brand margin, premium positioning, the cost of a separate dealer network, Lexus-specific advertising, salesperson training in luxury experiences, and the perception the buyer takes with them when they put that logo in their garage? The rest. A significant portion of that price difference is perceived value, not engineering value measurable in technical specifications. Toyota Motor Corporation knows exactly what it's doing. Lexus has existed as a brand since 1989, when Toyota decided to target the American premium market with a clear strategy, to capture the higher margin, accessible luxury segment using the same technological foundation, but with greater investment in perceived refinement and aspirational positioning. The launch of the LS 400 in 1989 was a milestone because Toyota produced a luxury sedan that directly rivaled the Mercedes S-Class and BMW 7 Series at a lower price and with proven superior reliability in the first few years of ownership. That origin still defines Lexus today. The brand inherits Toyota's engineering but wraps it in a differentiated customer experience positioning. It's not a conspiracy. It's a perfectly legitimate business strategy that generates higher margins for the group and genuinely offers a more refined product, albeit on a shared basis. But consumers often pay more for perceived experience than for structural differences, and knowing that changes how you should compare these two vehicles. There are buyers for whom the added refinement of the Lexus is worth the price difference. Buyers who spend long hours behind the wheel, who deeply value quietness at high speeds, who feast their eyes on the leather and wood trim when they get into the car in the morning. For these people, the UX is the right choice. There are other buyers for whom the platform, the reliability of the Toyota hybrid system, and a competent driving experience are the top priorities. They prefer solid technological features over luxury materials. They calculate that the $10,000 difference can cover many years of maintenance, a vacation, or simply free up capital that the car doesn't need. For these people, the Corolla Cross delivers 85% of the core technical proposition at a significantly lower price. The question isn't which one is better. The question is what part of the price you're paying for engineering and what part you're paying for the badge on the hood. And the honest answer in this case is that a significant part of that 30% difference isn't in the mechanic shop, it's in the marketing department. That doesn't invalidate the Lexus product, it contextualizes it. And contextualizing it allows you to make a purchase decision much more aligned with what you truly value. 3. Volkswagen Taos versus Skoda Karoq versus Seat Ateca. Same DNA, 3 prices. Within the Volkswagen Group, the strategy is clear. A single technical architecture for multiple brands. The Volkswagen Taos, the Skoda Karoq, and the Seat Ateca all share the MQB platform, developed to support dozens of transverse-engined models within the group. This is no coincidence. It's an industrial decision designed to reduce costs and maximize economies of scale. The investment in a platform like MQB is spread across millions of units produced in different markets. That's why we find common components in vehicles that, at first glance, appear to belong to very different segments. 1.4 or 1.5 TSI engines from the EA211 family, DSG transmissions like the DQ200 or DQ381 depending on the version, electronic stability modules, driver assistance systems, and much of the structural architecture are shared. The differences typically lie in calibrations, exterior design, suspension settings, and interior finishes. The underlying hardware is very similar. Even parts catalogs show identical part numbers across models from these three brands. For workshops specializing in the group, the learning curve is virtually the same. So why does the price change? The answer lies in positioning. Skoda presents itself as a rational alternative. Group engineering at a more accessible price and in many markets with more generous standard equipment. Seat leans towards a more dynamic and emotional identity with a more expressive design. Volkswagen occupies a central or upper position within the mainstream segment with a relatively more prestigious image before moving up to Audi within the same conglomerate. The internal hierarchy is clearly defined. Different brands, the same technical base, and tiered pricing based on perception and commercial strategy. From a corporate perspective, it's an efficient model. Different customer profiles are served using a common structure. In mechanical terms, the suspension setup, McPherson struts at the front and a torsion beam or independent rear axle, depending on the version, is equivalent. The wheelbase is comparable in the Karoq and Attica. The active safety systems are based on the same technical development, although they may have specific adjustments. For the owner, this has concrete implications. Spare parts are usually readily available. Independent maintenance can benefit from standardization, and reliability depends more on maintenance than on the logo. In many markets, the price difference between equivalent versions can range from several $1,000s or euros. This difference typically reflects interior design, perceived quality, specific equipment, and symbolic brand value rather than a profound structural transformation. The key is understanding what you're really paying for. If the decision is based on service network, historical resale value, or personal aesthetic preference, it's a valid choice. What's inaccurate is assuming that a higher price automatically implies fundamentally different engineering. When analyzing platform, engine, transmission, and electronic systems, the technical basis is, to a large extent, the same. 2. Chevrolet Captiva versus Baojun 530, the most obvious rebranding. This case is even more straightforward. The Chevrolet Captiva sold in several emerging markets, especially in Latin America, the Middle East, and parts of Asia, is essentially a Baojun 530 manufactured in China by SAIC-GM Wuling. The joint venture between General Motors, SAIC, and Wuling is one of the world's largest automotive operations in terms of volume. It produces vehicles under different brands for different markets, and the latest generation Captiva is one of the most documented and direct examples of this rebranding phenomenon. The emblem has changed. That golden Chevrolet shield replaces the Baojun logo on the grille. The front grille has also been redesigned with the brand's distinctive American aesthetic. A few aesthetic details on the bumpers and exterior design elements have been altered, enough to create a distinct visual identity that buyers won't immediately recognize as the same vehicle with a different logo. But the structure is the same. The engine is the same. The structural platform is the same. The electronic safety systems have the same origin. The suspension architecture is identical. The vehicle's dimensions, interior space, trunk capacity, passenger positioning, it's all the same vehicle because structurally it is. Even parts of the interior design share clear similarities when you closely compare photos of both vehicles. The lines of the dashboard, the layout of the controls, the shape of the center console in versions of the same generation. There are superficial differences, cosmetic changes that allow each brand to maintain its own visual identity within the showroom, but the underlying structure is evident to anyone who takes 10 minutes to compare the technical photos. The 1.5-liter turbocharged engine that powers the Captiva in many markets is the same one used in the Baojun 530. It's not a derivative or inspired engine, it's the same engine. The transmission is the same. The electronic architecture is the same. The driver assistance systems, to the extent they are present in the versions sold in different markets, also originate from the same source. Consumers who believe they are buying a product fully developed by Chevrolet, with all the history and technical weight that the brand had for decades in Latin America, with all the heritage of the Chevrolets that their parents and grandparents drove, are often unaware that the model was originally conceived under another brand geared towards the mid-priced Chinese market. This isn't information hidden in any classified file of any corporation. It's available in specialized publications, automotive press analyses, industry records, and comparative technical specifications published by specialized media outlets in various countries. But the average consumer who walks into a Chevrolet dealership in Mexico City, Bogota, Lima, or Buenos Aires doesn't necessarily arrive with this background. They didn't come to the dealership after researching the corporate history of SAICGM Wuling. They came because Chevrolet's advertising in their market has built trust over decades, and that accumulated trust does the sales work before the salesperson even opens their mouth. Is it a bad product? Not necessarily. The Baojun 530 was designed with demanding market criteria in mind. Chinese consumers in 2026 are sophisticated in their product evaluation. The Chinese market is the most competitive in the world in terms of available automotive offerings, with dozens of domestic and international brands competing in every price segment. A product that survives and sells in that environment must meet realistic standards of quality, features, and price. The vehicle boasts a spacious interior, particularly in the second row, making it competitive in markets where family space is a priority. The technology features in the higher trim levels are competitive for its price segment. The 1.5-litre turbocharged engine delivers adequate performance for both urban and interurban driving in the markets where it is sold. The point is something else. The point is that the price can vary significantly depending on the placement of the badge on the grille. Brand perception alters the final value more than actual engineering. General Motors takes a vehicle developed and produced under the Baojun brand in China, adapts it with aesthetic changes for a different market, slaps on the Chevrolet emblem, and in that act of rebranding captures a price differential that can be significant depending on the market. How much is the Chevrolet emblem worth in Latin America? More than the Baojun logo, clearly. Because Chevrolet built brand recognition over more than half a century in those markets. The Chevy, the Cheyenne, the Silverado, the original Blazer, all those vehicles deposited brand equity in the minds of several generations of Latin American buyers. That brand equity is real, it's not fictitious. It represents decades of investment in advertising, service networks, and institutional presence in the markets. And that equity has a value that translates into the consumer's willingness to pay a premium for the Golden Shield compared to what they would pay for a logo they don't recognize. The buyer should know precisely what they are acquiring, knowing the model's origin, its architecture, where it is manufactured, and under which brand it was conceived allows them to assess whether the value of the emblem justifies the price in that market. The answer may be yes. A strong dealer network, better parts availability, or more reliable warranty support can provide real value. That completely changes the analysis. Buying a model believing it was developed entirely by a traditional brand is not the same as buying one knowing it shares a platform with another vehicle backed by that same network. Both options can be valid, but an informed decision is always more sound. The information will be available in 2026. Researching before negotiating allows you to understand strengths, limitations, and true value, and to make a decision that aligns with your own needs. 1. BMW 1 Series versus Mini Countryman, the shared platform that few mention. Here we enter sensitive territory. The current BMW 1 Series and the Mini Countryman share the same front-wheel drive UKL architecture within the BMW group. This fact alone causes discomfort in certain sectors of the automotive market. For decades, BMW has cultivated an identity inextricably linked to rear-wheel drive and a 50-50 weight distribution between the front and rear axles. Brand purists know this history intimately. They value it. They consider it an essential part of BMW's driving DNA, the reason why a BMW behaves unlike anything else on the road. The slogan, "The Ultimate Driving Machine," wasn't born out of a marketing whim. It stemmed from decades of specific engineering decisions, from concrete technological bets that prioritized active driving pleasure over passive practicality. Longitudinal engine in the front, rear-wheel drive, carefully calibrated weight distribution. That was the BMW catechism. And then came the UKL platform, modular Vorderradantrieb front-wheel drive architecture, shared with Mini. And the world of certain automotive forums entered into a debate that is still ongoing, where purists lament the dilution of the brand's DNA and pragmatists point out that 21st century front-wheel drive technology is a far cry from the prejudices that surrounded it in the 80s or 90s. They're both partly right, and that's what makes the debate interesting. The current BMW 1 Series and Mini Countryman share 1.5-litre turbocharged 3-cylinder and 2.0-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engines in multiple configurations. The same engine block, the same in-house engineering developments, the same technological family. BMW's B38 3-cylinder engine is one of the most praised in the industry in its class for its smoothness and refinement for such a small engine. It's in the 1 Series, it's in the Mini, it's in several other models from the group in different markets and power outputs. They share torque converter and dual-clutch automatic transmissions from common suppliers. They share much of their structural underpinnings, including the McPherson strut front suspension and steering architecture. They share active safety electronic systems, connectivity platforms, and a significant portion of the component supply chain, but one is marketed as an entry-level German premium compact. The BMW 1 Series carries that blue and white logo, that kidney grille across the front, that implicit promise built up over decades that you're buying the brand of rear-wheel drive sedans that won driving awards, the brand that competes in the DTM and at the Nürburgring, the brand that defined what a premium hot hatch means during the golden years of the E46 and E90. The Mini Countryman, meanwhile, is marketed as a British-styled crossover with its own distinct identity. Its retro-modern design pays homage to Alec Isigonis's original Mini. It boasts a unique, almost contradictory, expressive personality. It appeals to a public seeking individual expression, originality, and the pleasure of driving a car with its own face, one that no one will mistake for another vehicle in the parking lot. Are they exactly the same? No. And it's important to say that precisely so as not to fall into an unfair oversimplification. The tuning is different. BMW and Mini engineers, although working within the same corporate group and on the same base platform, have genuinely different product objectives. The 1 Series aims for more precise steering, more neutral road feedback, and is more geared towards what BMW buyers expect in terms of driving dynamics. The Countryman aims for improved everyday practicality, generous interior space for its exterior size, a higher ride height than the 1 Series, and a more relaxed, less sporty driving experience. These calibration differences are real and noticeable. A driver who has driven both vehicles under the same conditions will perceive differences in handling. They are not the same car with different bodies. The design is different, profoundly different in its visual language and what it communicates. There's no possible confusion between a 1 Series and a Countryman parked side by side. The proportions are different, the height is different, the design language speaks completely different languages, even though the engineers who designed the chassis were in the same buildings. The brand approach is different. The dealership experience is different. The owner community is different. The accessories, the customization options, the cultural world surrounding each product, the brand events, the social media communication, all of these build different ownership experiences for different buyers. But the foundation remains the same, and that has concrete consequences beyond brand philosophy. Powertrain components are often interchangeable. Technicians familiar with the BMW Group's B38 or B46 engines can service both the 1 Series and the Countryman with the same technical knowledge and workshop equipment. Problems affecting this engine family, if they arise during the vehicle's lifespan, affect both models similarly. Solutions developed by the technical community for a recurring problem in the B38 apply equally to the 1 Series and the Countryman. This is relevant when you evaluate the total cost of ownership over a 5 or 7-year period. It's not just the purchase price, it's not just the monthly fuel consumption, it's also the cost of scheduled maintenance at authorized or independent workshops, the cost of eventual repairs when something fails beyond the warranty period, the availability of competitively priced spare parts on the independent market, and the depreciation of the vehicle's market value over the years. And when the price difference between a well-equipped 1 Series and an equivalent Countryman is significant in a given market, the buyer should ask themselves how much they are paying for real, differentiated engineering and how much they are paying for brand narrative. Narrative in the truest and most honest sense of the word. The narrative that BMW is BMW, that the blue and white logo carries with it decades of history on the track, of driver-oriented engineering, of a premium positioning built on concrete technical decisions before marketing departments existed in their modern form. That narrative has real value for a certain buyer. If it genuinely matters to you to present yourself in certain environments with a vehicle that communicates a certain type of professional success, and the BMW does so more clearly than the Mini in your specific social circle, that's not absurd vanity. It's a real consideration that's a legitimate part of the buying equation. Human beings are social animals. The objects we carry communicate things, and what they communicate has value for people and their social relationships. It's not irrational. Since the mid-20th century, the automobile has ceased to be merely transportation and has come to communicate identity, aspirations, and belonging. The brand carries real symbolic weight. However, if the goal is to have a solid platform, a proven powertrain, competitive efficiency, and reasonable costs in the medium term, that technical foundation is often the same regardless of the logo. In 2026, information is accessible. Technical specifications, specialized analyses, and user experiences allow for the comparison of platforms, not just brands. Shared engineering isn't the problem. The key is understanding how much of the price reflects real technical differences and how much is due to positioning. Clarity on this allows for more informed decisions that align with your priorities. The next time you compare two models, don't just focus on the logo or the dealership's pitch. Check the platform, engine, transmission, and actual features. Understanding what you're paying for can save you thousands and prevent impulsive decisions. If you found this analysis helpful, leave your opinion in the comments. Do you think the price reflects the engineering or the brand? Subscribe for more technical comparisons and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos.